In this video, we are going to walk through a coding solution to the classic accordion component React interview question. So let's jump in. So in this question, we are required to create an accordion component that renders a list of collapsible sections supplied through an items prop. We start with every panel closed. Clicking a header expands its panel and collapses all other panels. Clicking an already open header collapses its panel, and when a panel is collapsed, its contents element must not exist in the DOM. So we're using conditional rendering here, and then so we can apply tailwind, so the active header gains a BG indigo 50 and bold text, while inactive headers simply stay plain. So here we render the whole widget inside the div with the data test ID accordion, and every header must be a button with the data test ID accordion header, and each visible panel a div with data test ID accordion panel. And as always, we should not edit any data test IDs as they are used for testing. So if I hop into solution mode, I can now view the component and see what's expected. So here, if I click on first, you can see first gets that nice background and the bolding, and you can see the first panel opens. If I re-click it, it'll simply close. If I click on second, second will open. And then if I click on third, well, second closes and third opens. So pretty simple, but again, it's just maintaining that one active accordion item at one time. So let's jump into the code now. And lastly, I've just hopped out of the solution mode, and you can see here when I click first, nothing happens. So our job is to hook up that logic so that when we click an item, it opens and all other open items are closed. So in the app.js, we have our items array here with 3 items in it, and then we are rendering our accordion component and passing in items as a prop. So looking at the accordion component, pretty simple. We've got our data test ID of accordion. We're then mapping over the items. Each accordion item simply is a button with the data test ID accordion header. But again, remember, it's our job so that when we click on one of these buttons, it opens up the accordion panel beneath it. So I think the first thing to do is to introduce a piece of state that tracks which item is active, as there can only be one active component at a single point in time. So let's create that active state. So the first thing I'll say const active set active, and I think the default value, so when we open a page, it should be null because no accordion items will be active. And let's import that from React like so. And then we're also going to need some kind of toggle logic so that when I click an item, it becomes open and all other items are now closed. So I can say const toggle. And so what this will do is it will take the index of the accordion item, and then simply we'll say set active, and then we will check if the active value equals the index passed in, because if the active value is the index, well, we want to return null because we are essentially closing it. Otherwise, we want to set active to that index because it wasn't previously open, and now we want to open it. So that's the logic there for this toggle. So in our mapping here, what I want to do is I want to change this to curly braces because I want to define a variable, and then we will simply return the JSX like this. And so I'm going to say const open equals active equals the index. So that's how we're going to be able to identify if it's open. And so on click in the button, very simple, we can say on click. Well, we're going to call toggle, and so we can say toggle, and we can simply call it with the index coming from the map here. And then in terms of class names, all I've done here is I'm checking if it's open. If it is, give it a background and some bolding, otherwise just leave it with a background of white. And then the last thing we need to do is to, underneath our button here, is to check if it's open. So if it's open, well, then we want to display the JSX showing the accordion panel. So this will be a div, and I'm going to add the data test ID, and this will be the accordion panel, I will then add some class names beneath it, and all they do is give it some padding, a white background, and a border top. And then lastly, what we want to do here is render the content. So we can say item.content like so. So if I go over to our display here, again, when I click it, it should open. It gets the bolding and the background, and the panel opens. And then when I click second, again, first should close and second opens. And then when I click second, it should close. So that all appears to work. Let's run the tests and see if they pass. Perfect, they pass. Let's run the test suite to make sure all tests pass. Perfect, they all work. So this is a pretty simple question. It ensures you know the fundamentals of state management and UI knowledge. But despite it being an easy question, in an interview it can actually often be tough, especially when you've got an interviewer watching kind of every keystroke. So if you want to try it out for yourself, the link to the questions is in the description, and hopefully you got some value out of it. If you did, please like and subscribe and share with a friend. It helps the channel out a lot, and I will see you in the next one.